Welcome to the Family History Buff channel. On today's video, I will help you explore your family tree on Family Search. Hello, this is Murray Dalton, your Family History Buff. This is our second video that will help you view and explore your family tree on Family Search. Hopefully you had a chance to view our very first video titled How to Find Your Ancestors on Family Search. If you didn't view our video number 1, I would strongly recommend beginning there, at least if you are still trying to search and find your ancestors. Now let's explore your family tree on Family Search. Let's go ahead and log into your Family Search account. Go to Family Search's website, familysearch.org, typing familysearch.org into your browser. If you have never logged into Family Search before or don't have a Family Search account, I would strongly recommend you listen to our video number 1 first. If you have an account, go ahead and sign in to familysearch.org using the username and password of your account. If you don't have an account, no problem. All you need to do is just register for a new free account. If you already have an account but you forgot your username or password, just follow the instructions on the screen where it says Forgot User, Name, or Password. Once you have successfully entered Family Search, click on the Family Tree icon on the top left of your screen, and on the drop-down option, click on Tree. You will first see your family tree. If your family tree doesn't show any of your family or ancestors, I would suggest viewing our very first video number 1, which should help you find and add your ancestors to your family tree. On my family tree, I'm showing my great-grandfather George Frederick Lewis as an example of what your family tree should look like. I now want to show you various options of how to view your family tree and ancestors on Family Search. Click on the drop-down menu as shown on the top left part of your screen. You can view by landscape, portrait, fan chart, or descendancy chart. By default, you should already be in the landscape mode. If not, click on landscape, which is one of the drop-down menu options. The landscape view has several advantages. You can see many generations of a family at one time. You can follow one family's line back or forward in time. Click on the arrow on the far right of your furthest ancestor to view more ancestors going back in time. As an example, if I click on my great-grandfather James Lewis, shown right here, it will show more generations of his ancestors. So click on this little arrow on the far right to go back further. And now you can see, as far as on the Lewis line, it is now going to George Lewis. And so if I go and click on his little arrow on the far right, as shown here, it is now bringing up even more generations, going back to another James Lewis with a different spelling here, born in 1631. If I click on the little arrow over on his far right side, it is now going to go back even 2 more generations to a George Lewis born in 1571, and it's going to go back to a Hugh Lewis born in 1530, and so on. As you can see, it keeps going back further and further. In this case, it goes back to a John Lewis who was born in the year 1500. The next option to view your family tree is a portrait view. Click on Portrait on the top left page on the drop-down options, as shown right here. The portrait view displays your pedigree vertically. You and your descendants are at the bottom. Your ancestors are above you. The portrait view has several advantages. You can see many generations of a family at one time. You can easily follow one family's line back or forward in time. Let me show you how to do that. For example, if I want to follow my ancestors back in time on the portrait view, I would click on these little arrows showing just above, for example, and here's George Frederick Lewis, and it goes back up to his grandfather James Lewis. If I click on this little arrow right here, it is now going to go back in time on a portrait view showing more ancestors. As you can see here, it's added 2 more ancestors. I click on another arrow at the top of the screen here, and it goes back showing even more generations, and you can keep doing that going back in time. Next option to view is the fan chart. Click on the fan chart on the top left page on the drop-down menu right here. The fan chart displays many generations all at once. Example, using my great-grandfather George Frederick Lewis, on this fan chart you can see his name, his parents' name, his grandparents' names, and his great-grandparents' names. Now I have options to view 4, 5, 6, or 7 generations. Let me show you how to do this. Currently we are showing 4 generations. And now if I go up here and click on this option of 5 generations, as you can see, it now shows 16 great-grandparents on this fan chart. Now let's go ahead and click on 6 generations. As you can see, it now shows 32 great-grandparents. Now let's go ahead and click on 7 generations. It shows a potential of showing 64 fourth great-grandparents. However, on mine, it looks like we are missing 4 of the 4 great-grandparents as shown in this area right here. So it looks like I have some work to do to find some more ancestors. In videos 9, 10, and 11 to follow, I will be showing how to search and find ancestors when you come to a dead end and need to go back further in time to find those ancestors. Now, if you don't like the color of the fan chart being in white, you do have an option of going over here and clicking on this option on the far right of the screen where it says invert colors. So if I click on that, you can see it does change the fan chart into a different color. Also, if you would like a copy of your fan chart, it does have an option as well where it says print. You can go ahead and print a copy of your own personal fan chart as shown right here. Now the fan chart can also help you in many ways. You have various options to view more information about your ancestors as shown on the drop-down menu in the top left corner of your screen shown under fan chart. We just went through family lines, and now if you go ahead and click on birth country, you have more options on the drop-down menu. Now we are still looking at my great-grandfather's record, George Frederick Lewis, and if you look now over to the right side of the screen, it shows the birth country of each of his parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and his children. For example, it shows some of his ancestors in this pink color is born in British colonial America, in the blue area, United States, in this gold area, in England, and Mexico, United Kingdom, and then of course there's some unknowns. Next option on the drop-down menu under fan chart menu is sources, as shown here. Click on sources. Now it will show you how many sources of information are listed on each ancestor or descendant. For example, if you look to the far right of your screen, it's color-coded and it will show the amount of sources for each ancestor from 0 to 10 plus sources, and it's color-coded so you know which one has that amount of sources. Now as you click on each color, it will outline on the fan chart each of your ancestors to show which one includes that amount of source information. For example here, if I click on 1 to 4, it's outlined the ancestors that have 1 to 4 information. If I click on 5 to 9, it shows the ancestors that have 5 to 9 sources of information. If I click on 10, it's showing the ancestors that have at least 10 or more pieces of source information. Now, source information can include many different things like birth, marriage, death records, land records, copies of wills, military service certificates, census records, and many other types as well. I will be covering how to view and add source information on video number 12. Next, if you click on Stories, under the fan chart menu, it will list how many different stories you can find on each of your ancestors. And if you look at the far right of the screen, it's color-coded to show you how many different stories are listed on each ancestor. I will be covering how to view and add stories to your ancestor's record on a different video. Next, if you click on Photos under the fan chart menu, it will list how many different photos you can find on each of your ancestors. And if you look on the far right of the screen, it's color-coded to show you how many different photos are listed on each ancestor. I will be covering how to view and add photos to your ancestors' records on video number 6. Next, under the fan chart menu, you can click on Research Helps. Research Helps can help you solve data problems, record hints, and research suggestions. This will be covered in a different video to follow. The final item listed under the fan chart is Ordinances, which will help LDS members know which ordinances have been completed. So in summary, as you can see, the fan chart view has several advantages. You can see up to 7 generations of your ancestors all at once. You can easily identify where family lines end, in other words, where information is missing. You can quickly see in what countries different ancestors were born and which ancestors have photos, stories, and sources attached to the person's pages. Now, the final option to view your family tree is Descendancy View. But before we do that, I'm going to show you an option on your main tree where you can also change the colors of the screen. I'm going to click on Options up here, go down and click on Invert Colors, and now you can see it's changed to a different color. Now, the final option to view your family tree is Descendancy View, shown in the top left of your screen. Click on where it says Landscape and go down and now click on Descendancy. The Descendancy View displays individuals' descendants vertically in a list. With it, you can easily see or research your ancestors' descendants. In this descendancy chart, it shows my great-great-grandfather, James Lewis, and lists his spouse and all 14 of his children. If I click on his son's name, George Frederick Lewis, who is my great-grandfather, it will show his spouse and each of his 7 children. I'm going to click on this little arrow right left of his picture. This way, you can keep clicking on different children's names and see each of their descendants. Family Tree is where your family history comes together. The second step in getting started is to explore your family tree. I will use the landscape view starting with my great-grandfather to show you how to explore and view your ancestors on Family Tree. You may find that your family tree goes back many generations in time. Find out where your ancestors are from and ultimately where you are from. Start by clicking on an ancestor's name in your family tree and assuming your ancestor's name is George Frederick Lewis, you would click on his name. Then, when this little box comes up, you would next click on Person, shown right here at the bottom of the screen on his profile. You can now view information about your ancestor. The Person's page of your ancestor is their profile page, and it has the following sections: Life Sketch, Vital information such as birth and death information, other information, and at the bottom of the screen it will show his spouse, it will show his children's names, and it will show his parents' names over to the right, and any siblings that he has. At the top of this screen, it shows my great-grandfather as having 22 pieces of source information. In this case, you may even find actual vital records such as birth, marriage, death, census, and other records that a family member or distant cousin or family search may have attached to your ancestors' record. Next, at the top of the screen, if you're an LDS member of the church and you're trying to track LDS ordinance data, by clicking on Ordinances, it will give you any LDS ordinance data that has been performed. Also, on the far right of this screen, if you want to follow this individual and see any changes to this person that might happen in the future, you can click on this button and it will allow you to follow them. Next, on the far top right of the screen, if you want to see what your true relationship is to this individual, you just need to click on View My Relationship. So if I click on this, it shows my name down here, it shows my father, my grandmother, and my great-grandfather, George Frederick Lewis, and my great-grandmother, Mary Adelaide Huff. You may even find photos of your ancestor by clicking on Memories on the toolbar, then click on Photos, as shown in this option at the top of the screen. Family members, information researchers, and volunteers from around the world are adding to Family Tree daily. Some work may have already been done for you. You can now add missing names, dates, and relationships, collaborate with other family members, and watch your family tree grow. This will be covered in my next video, number 3. I hope you enjoyed this video presentation. If you enjoyed my presentation, please subscribe to this channel, Family History Buff. It's the best way to follow me. I have more videos to view which will go through every aspect of helping you with family search and even other ways to help you find your ancestors. Subscribing is the best way to follow me. Now that you're connected to your ancestors on Family Search, you will want to watch video number 3 entitled, How Do I Enter Dates and Places into My Family Tree? Thank you for watching. See you on video number 3.